Aries Girl Podcast. Welcome to the Aries Girl Podcast. I'm your host, Aries Ramsey. All commentary provided in this video is alleged, in my opinion, and for entertainment purposes only, under the guidance of the Fair Use Act of 1976. Well, now that we have that disclaimer out of the way, let's get into the show. Hello Zodiacs. Carlos King is putting more and more of his taint in each episode of this show, and we are going to talk about it. Stick around until the end of the video because you'll be as irritated with Carlos King as I am as we discuss the final scenes. If not, it means that I need to work on myself. Now, I'm sure that you're familiar with the type of taint that Carlos King is obsessed with. If not, it's cheating in all forms, side chicks, side dudes, and side babies, love triangles, just all things abnormal concerning relationships. And now it seems like we can even add macabre to the list. I've even said in a previous review of episode 11 of Love and Marriage Huntsville that not all people in the black community are either cheated on or the cheater, except for in that show. Well, now, I have to include Family Empire Houston to the list, and you're about to find out why. So, let's pick back up from last week's cliffhanger at Justin's performance, which ultimately turned into a Carlos King bleep show. Alright, we have Quita, Aunt Nikki, Jermisha, Nicole, and Monet still discussing what happened at the brunch with the broker event, and discussing how Nicole addressed Caramel about her spat with Keisha after her mom's passing, which is what led to Keisha sending out the group text defending Caramel. As they are talking about Keisha and Caramel behind their backs, the two are actually walking in, and one member of the group is trying to shush everyone to stop the conversation by saying that they are coming. Now, I believe that this is Nicole, but I'm not 100% sure. Mind you, they've already had an inappropriate conversation at the brunch with the broker event, which should have remained professional. However, they decided to discuss Chris's contract and Caramel's spat with Keisha, and here they are yet again rehashing that conversation at Justin's performance. Why can't they just sit there and enjoy the music and the show? I'll tell you why. More than likely, production set this up to occur here because the entire situation felt staged. After Keisha and Caramel join the group and greet everyone, we go into Lakeisha's confessional, where she says that Caramel wants her to come clean about what happened the day after her mom passed and why she was so upset. She's not excited to share that information with her family, but she does want Caramel to understand that she has her back. In scene, Caramel magically and conveniently has to go to the ladies' room, which sets the stage for the shenanigans and the foolery to commence. Jaquita starts things off by asking Lakeisha what has been up, and Lakeisha just says work. Then Jaquita brings up the group text that Keisha sent to everyone because it confused her. And production is putting out subliminal messaging by adding descriptions of Jermisha as being a busybody and Jaquita as being a detective under their names. This is tacky and shady as hell, but okay, we can guess that this silliness was Carlos King approved. Keisha explains that it was a situation that happened, but they weren't arguing, and everyone just made assumptions. Then, she tells the group that Aunt Nikki was the one who called her ex. Back in confessional, Lakeisha reiterates that the day that her mom passed, Aunt Nikki called her ex. In Aunt Nikki's confessional, she admits that her message to Keisha's ex said that Keisha's mother just passed, and that it would be good if she reached out and checked on her, and that it was as simple as that. Back in Keisha's confessional, she says that Caramel saw her phone ringing and thought that Keisha had called her ex, but we know that this wasn't the case. Back in scene, Caramel has returned from the ladies' room, and Aunt Nikki is explaining to Keisha that she had good intentions by asking her ex-girlfriend to call her. We even had Nicole asking if Aunt Nikki was disrespectful or anything, which Keisha refuted. Keisha just tells the group that if they did feel anything, they left her out of the conversation, and she stated that she doesn't do that to them. Caramel adds that she thought that they were all on the same playing field. However, she was under the impression that Keisha reached out to her ex and that it was really just a big misunderstanding. Caramel said that she left the family get-together because she had an attitude about Keisha's ex-girlfriend calling her phone back to back. Again, we know that this wasn't the case because it was Aunt Nikki that asked the ex-girlfriend to call Keisha. Then, we learn that Keisha called Caramel after she left, and Caramel explained that she didn't want to be there because she had already addressed that with Keisha. Meanwhile, Justin is looking perturbed at the group having this particular conversation because they are sitting close to him near the stage. Quita adds that she thought Caramel's timing was off to have that conversation with Keisha right after her mom passed, and even added that if Keisha was out there being an HOE, Caramel should have addressed it after the fact. We get taken into Quita's confessional, where she states that her cousin Keisha is very private, but it doesn't take Sherlock Holmes to see that Caramel had her antennas up because Keisha was trying to be a sneaky link to her ex-girlfriend. She claims that she doesn't think they were doing anything, but says Keisha wasn't being transparent. And she even goes as far as to say that Keisha can have 304 tendencies at times, which, if you use your calculator, you know that 304 upside down spells HOE. Caramel tells the group that she was under the impression that she didn't make a scene when she left, but Nicole adds in her 2 cents by saying that the timing was very wrong. And of course, there's a Nicole confessional to go into further detail, because what this show serves up is some confessionals starring Nicole. Nonetheless, in that confessional, Nicole says that no one likes when their spouse's ex comes back into the fold, but she thinks that there is a time and place for everything, and is under the impression that Caramel should have held in what she felt at that time so that Keisha could grieve and focus on her mother. So apparently, Nicole is oblivious to the fact that now isn't the time or place for the very conversation that they are having at Justin's show. Nicole, you don't see the irony in that? But back in scene, Quita wants to get clarity about the phone call so that they can move on, and then throws Jermisha under the bus by saying that she eavesdropped at the door to Lakeisha talking to Caramel. Now, Jermisha says that it wasn't eavesdropping, it was just her checking on her cousin. So, of course, Jermisha goes into confessional to clear things up by saying that they weren't arguing, and that Keisha was defending herself. She reiterates that it was just a horrible time for Caramel to have that conversation. Then, Nicole blows up the entire conversation by saying that if she caught her husband cheating on her after his mother died, she's not even going to say anything. What is happening? How did we get here? And can we please leave right now? Because they all start talking over one another, and Justin was on stage looking super perturbed. Hell, he enters a confessional for the first time and actually says that he's pissed off because he is on stage, and they are literally no more than 2 feet from him, so he hears their loud and obnoxious conversation. Jermisha tries to shush everyone before Justin started his performance, and it was nice hearing Justin's voice instead of the Caramel and Keisha conversation. He continues saying in confessional that he thinks Misha can try to keep them under control, but if you know the Braden women, you know that they do their own thing, but he wants his ish respected. And I don't blame him. In a much expected Nicole confessional, she says that if anybody in their family is mistreated, they are going to speak up about it, and she stands by that. Unfortunately, Justin's song performance ends, and the conversation restarts with Quita asking Caramel why Keisha needed to explain herself when her mom just passed away. Aunt Nikki tells Caramel that she knows they got off on a bad foot, but her first impression of her was when Keisha's mom passed. Now, notice the theme here, zodiacs. Everybody just has to mention Keisha's mom passing away. I'm sure production put them up to it, but it was overdone, and I know that this cast is new to reality shows, but know this. Just because production asks you to do something, it doesn't mean that you should do it or have to do it. Nicole literally told Keisha 4 times in a row that her mother passed, so you can't help but think that this entire scene was scripted. Regardless, this caused Keisha to ask them why they were still talking about her mother passing away, and she told them that she was done and no longer wanted to talk about it. But Quita kept talking about it and telling Caramel that they didn't know anything about her except that she was from California, and it prompted Keisha to get up and leave, and she tells Caramel, "Let's go." Now, Aunt Nikki seems to be shocked that Keisha is leaving and asks if the topic is sensitive to her. Wait, what? Seriously? Aunt Nikki? Was that part scripted? But Keisha again tells them that her mom passed and that she wants them to leave her alone about it, and she and Caramel walked out. I guess that Quita had an epiphany and told the group that they kept mentioning how Keisha's mom passed and that it would be a trigger. Well, I'm glad someone noticed that, even if it was after the fact, because I know that I was triggered as well as Keisha. Monet tries to be philosophical and tells the group that it was a lot for Keisha with her mom passing and her trying to protect her girlfriend, and Nicole claims that she is going to protect her spouse by any means. Yeah, Nicole, you alluded to that already when you said you could catch your spouse cheating and wouldn't say anything. Quita then says that they should sweep things under the rug, and Chris tries to calm things down by telling them to do what their papa would want. Aunt Nikki went into hysterics, which made Nicole laugh at her for some reason. Maybe that wasn't part of the script, probably? Regardless, this whole effing scene was unnecessary. They should have just been letting Justin promote his music and had this ignorant conversation at somebody's house. Not here. This irritated me to no end. But this is what Carlos King thinks the viewers want because it is what he thrives on. No. Carlos King. The viewers want black businesses and black excellence showcased, not triggering trauma and mess. This scene made my head hurt, and I'm glad it's over. In the second scene, Nicole is on her way to Quita's house and talks to Jermisha on the phone to rehash the debacle at Justin's performance. For some reason, Nicole tells Jermisha that she doesn't know why Justin was upset with the family, and I'm not buying it. Jermisha goes into confessional to say that her husband Justin was understandably upset about that conversation exploding at his show. Justin had told her on a video call that he takes his stuff seriously and it's not a plaything. She goes on to say that she knows how passionately everyone can be about their feelings, but knows that it wasn't the right time or place for that conversation. Well, Jermisha could have shut that conversation down at any point that night, but she chose to participate in it, so I'm not buying this explanation. Back in scene, Nicole then asks Jermisha if she had talked to Keisha because she kinda feels bad about what happened and feels bad about her sister storming out. Really? It seems like Nicole should have and would have known that this would happen, but now she thinks that they should go to therapy. I said this a long time ago, but welcome to the realization that help is needed and long overdue, and that constantly bringing up Keisha's mother's passing was triggering for her and giving a macabre vibe. Then, Nicole arrives at Quita's house to talk to Chris about his contract. She greets Quita and then yells for Christopher as she gets seated on the couch. Next, Nicole goes into a confessional. Why am I not surprised? She says that dealing with the drama between Aunt Nikki and Keisha was too much to deal with, but now she's dealing with drama that she can control, which is Chris and his contract. Back in scene, Quita and Nicole discuss the drama that took place at Justin's event surrounding Aunt Nikki, because Aunt Nikki's intentions of having Keisha's ex-girlfriend call to check on her came from a place of caring. Quita tells Nicole that they can't bring this up again because Keisha has already said that it is upsetting for her. But Nicole says that her intentions of bringing it up was to open a door to get to know Caramel better. That's a hard sell for me, Nicole. There are so many other ways that you could have gotten to know Caramel better, but let's move on. Then, Quita gets a little shady and funny by asking Nicole if Caramel is her real name or her stripper name, because she was currently using the same stripper name and now needed a new one, maybe something like Delicious. I could not stop laughing. Quita is definitely the fun sister cousin. Quita also mentions that her new stripper name will come in just in time for hers and Chris's wedding anniversary that he apparently wants her to plan solo. I told you that Chris was giving off lazy vibes in my last review. Now, Chris finally comes into the room to join them, and Nicole gets into discussing his contract that she has conveniently emailed to both Quita and Chris. That's odd and unprofessional, especially if Quita isn't signing the contract. Nicole claimed that she wasn't going to go through every minute detail and only hit the highlights, but she seemed to have been less than honest because she went over that contract forever. Even Quita went into confessional to call Nicole Oscarine Jr., and Nicole kept going and going, like the Energizer Bunny. Then Quita had another confessional where she just looked at her watch and said that she was getting sleepy and wanted to know what time lunch was. Long story short, when Nicole got finished, it all boiled down to the fact that Chris was getting more responsibilities for the exact same pay, and his job title went from content creator to media manager. Rightly so, Chris told her that it was a bad record deal and that it was a slap in the face. However, Nicole told him to propose a better number, because that salary was in line with what others were being paid. In his confessional, Chris says that the contract is a 360 deal, meaning that it was all-encompassing. Chris said that it was designed to benefit them. Quita goes into confessional to say that she has her husband's back, but at the same time, their finances need to be in order before they do anything that they can't handle. Chris claims that at this point, he thinks that he needs to step aside from the Braden group and let them go with someone else so that they can finally see how good they had it with him. Nicole tells them both that she will let them review the contract and recap their conversation with Jermisha, then leaves. Quita wants Chris to at least see if the numbers make sense, but he tells her that he'll take a risk. But what he's not about to do is play himself. That ends the scene, and for Chris's sake, I hope that the next person Braden hires to replace him, if he leaves, doesn't come in and outshine him in that position. The third scene has Aunt Nikki and Jermisha discussing what happened at Justin's performance right in their place of business. Everything is being done at the wrong time and wrong place in my opinion. Aunt Nikki tells Jermisha that she feels bad because she probably said some things that she shouldn't have. And Jermisha tells her aunt that she thought that she was being a little extra dramatic. Aunt Nikki jokingly claps back and tells Jermisha that it must run in the family, because if she is dramatic, then what does that make Jermisha? This makes them both laugh. They eventually get down to business, with Jermisha telling her that she wants to talk to her aunts, Charlotte and Cheryl, about the land. Since her aunt Charlotte is having knee surgery, Jermisha is going to take her to the doctor's appointment and use that as an opportunity to pitch her idea. Jermisha goes into confessional to say that if her aunts knew what she knows, and the way she knows it, then she can talk them over to see things her way concerning the land. She just needs some one-on-one time with them in order to make her point. In Aunt Nikki's confessional, she says that she loves Jermisha's passion, and that her dad wanted the G2s to have the property, but Jermisha needs to tread lightly because Charlotte and Cheryl are not easy to convince. Back in scene, Jermisha tells her aunt how Nicole was resistant to her ideas about the land concerning the Sheltons, coming up with a development plan. However, Aunt Nikki tells Jermisha that she is the best person to present things because she is the oldest grandchild and has everyone's trust. Well, that wraps up the scene. We'll see how this shakes out, because I'm very leery of this entire thing blowing up in Jermisha's lap, but I'm sure she will be very convincing if Nicole doesn't interfere. In the fourth scene, we meet up with Jaquita going to work out. She tells the fitness instructor to take it easy on her because she doesn't work out, and she has no idea what her cousin has signed her up for. The instructor asks her about any previous injuries that he needs to know about, and Jaquita goes through a list of ailments: a fractured ankle, a heel spur, arthritis in her knees, and asthma, so she needs him to take it easy on her. Jaquita, these are all the more reason to start an exercise regimen, but let's move on. Monet shows up and then goes into confessional. She says that after their crazy night at Justin's show, she thought that she needed to invite Quita and Keisha out to a workout so that they could blow off some steam. When Quita notices the workout equipment that is outside, she tells Monet that it is too hot for all of that. But Monet thinks that they need to get fit. Quita says that all she likes to do is eat, but also says that she needs to get rid of her quote-unquote vagemic, which is obviously vagina plus stomach merged into one word. See what I mean? Quita always brings the laughs and jokes, but that made the fitness instructor a little uncomfortable. Monet goes back into confessional to say that Quita is always a fun time, but she just doesn't work out. She's always claiming that she wants to lose weight, but Quita loves food. Then, Keisha shows up to the workout session with a box of donuts. I cannot. Really, Keisha? And Monet goes back into confessional and says that it is safe to say that neither one of them has seen the inside of a gym in a while. They all go outside to begin the workout routine, and Quita jokingly complains the entire time. She even thought that her wig was going to melt off because it was so hot outside. Nonetheless, they perform their workout routine, and afterwards, Quita goes into confessional, saying that it was a disaster. And in scene, after they are sitting down regrouping after the workout, Quita tells the fitness instructor that Monet is single, and he makes a quick exit immediately afterwards. They discuss the events at Justin's performance, and Keisha says that she left to separate herself and to get her peace from the situation. Monet says that she knows it was a lot for Keisha and that it was coming from every angle. Back in Quita's confessional, she says that it's good that she and Monet are getting a chance to speak with Keisha because they are probably the two closest family members to her. Whenever the whole family is around Keisha, she becomes overwhelmed and doesn't open up. Monet asks Keisha about her deciding to enter therapy with Nicole. She hopes that the outcome is great because she tries to be positive in everything that she does. Quita is hoping that they are both open and honest. Keisha admits that she's nervous in her confessional because it's her first time sitting down with the therapist, who is a stranger, and she's concerned about what is going to happen because things need to happen. The scene ends with Monet wanting to do some squats and Quita ready to go home, but first she wants to know where Keisha left the donuts that she brought. Keisha knows that she was wrong for bringing those donuts, but it was definitely funny. We're back at the Braden Real Estate Group offices with Jermisha and Nicole discussing Chris's contract, and how Nicole doesn't think Chris takes initiative to get things done, while Jermisha states the differences in the duties on the contract. And Nicole goes into confessional to say that her granny is about her business and that she taught them everything that they know about being an entrepreneur, so she and Jermisha need Chris to do the same thing. Now, back in scene, Nicole attempts to call Chris a couple of times, but it appears as though he sent her straight to voicemail. She continues her confessional by saying that Chris has been dodging her ever since they discussed his contract, and depending on who you ask, Chris is on a paid vacation, and she doesn't know how long she's going to put up with the trouble. Nicole tells Jermisha that she feels as though she's been very patient with Chris, but her patience is running out, and she wants to know what their plan B is should they decide to part ways with Chris. Jermisha admits that this is the hard part about working with family because this is her sister's husband and household, and she wouldn't want to abruptly take away resources from their household. Jermisha goes back and forth with Nicole over whether or not the family card is being played. Trust me, it is. In a previous episode, I mentioned that Chris should be fired, and it looks like I wasn't wrong about this. In Jermisha's confessional, she states that it is not a good feeling knowing that whatever goes on at Braden is going to affect her sister's household. However, Nicole could care less about people's feelings because feelings don't pay bills. Back in scene, they discuss getting a marketing campaign together for their luxury real estate division, which they are both excited about elevating and taking things to the next level for the company. And, you guessed it, another Nicole confessional. She's excited about the luxury division, and that she just closed on that $1.4 million property. She is unaware of any black brokerage in Houston that is a luxury brokerage because, historically, they are associated with affordable housing, and she wants to change that narrative. In scene, Jermisha mentions that they will be bringing in new agents to the brokerage. Nicole says she wants experience, expertise, and a strong network. She also wants to elevate her sister Monet because she is responsible for the highest sale the company has ever had. And, Nicole dips back into a confessional and says that the luxury market in Houston starts at around $1 million, and the average age for a lot of luxury buyers has gone down. Also, a lot of the luxury buyers that she works with are actually younger than her. She discusses the value of having a social presence and a brand in today's market, and that Chris is the brains of a lot of the social media that they put out. Now, Nicole says she wants to work with Chris on the luxury campaign, so we all know that will depend on whether or not Chris shows up to do the work. In the next scene, we meet up with Quita for her anniversary date. It looks like she has hired a private chef and a dance instructor, but Chris appears to be running late. Well, it is safe to assume that he's not on his way from Braden Real Estate, so why he's late is interesting to me, but he said that he had a consultation that ran late when Quita called to get his ETA. She goes into her confessional to say that she planned their entire anniversary without his input, but if she waited on Chris to plan things or give his input, they'd be at home just staring at one another. Quita starts learning some dance steps with the instructor, however, she doesn't know that Chris just pulled up and is unable to get inside because the door is locked. Fortunately, the chef comes to let him in and Chris gets started with the dance lesson, and it is obvious that Chris has two left feet. Quita even goes into confessional to say that Chris is offbeat and making things very awkward. Chris claims in his confessional that with the Braden women, if you let them, they will try to lead. In her confessional, she states that them dancing is actually typical of their relationship because he wants to take the lead, but she ends up telling him that he's not doing it right. Quita, you summed that up perfectly, and the instructor even told her to let him lead on the dance floor the way that she leads at home, and I'm sitting here wondering where that came from because I thought they just met the dance instructor for the first time. Did someone give him a script? Or did I miss something? Anyway, dinner is served, and they discuss how they enjoyed the dance lesson and what they are looking forward to in the 6th year of their marriage. Because their first years went by quickly since they had their son Carter, and then the pandemic hit, and their careers changed. Chris wants to know how she feels and if she's happy with all of the changes. She admits that their 6 years hasn't been easy, and she thinks that they have been a little stagnant for the last 3 or 4 years, and she really wants to grow. Chris, I sure hope that you are paying attention here, because she apparently wants another house and child, and she wants to make sure that you both are on the same page and growing together. Now, Chris claims that he's been asking her to get on the same page, and that's why he enjoyed their dance lesson just now, because it finally seems like they got into a rhythm. He would love to talk about goals and plans, and then he claims that he's a worker, and he does whatever she tells him he needs to do. Now wait, let's unpack that. How does a grown man not already know what he needs to do without being told? Quita, keep leading your household. In Quita's confessional, she says that when she met Chris, he was working at an oil and gas company, but once he got laid off, he lost the mojo that he previously had. So he's trying to figure out everything, and he's still new to being an entrepreneur. And if he wants to be the man of the house, stand up and lead. She tells him that she is caught up in the middle with his position at the brokerage and wants to know what he's going to do and how serious he is. However, Chris thinks that Quita shouldn't be in the middle and that she should be on his side as her husband. Actually, Chris, she should be on the side of right, and you need to take your butt to work and earn your paycheck if you want to continue receiving one, but let's move on. Quita tries to explain to him that it is a family business, and she's not about to mess up her paycheck. She asks him if he is staying with Brayden, because if he isn't, he needs to have something lined up. However, Chris tries to smooth things over by saying that he has a responsibility to his family, and asks why she thinks he's even considering the WAC 360 contract and putting up with BS. When she tries to ask him if he's willing to sign the contract, he says that he's still thinking about it. However, he claims that he's not going to let her carry the load of everything, because he's not that type of man, but she's already been carrying the load. So, when she goes back into confessional, Quita says that the Brayden women are strong black women and boss ladies, but at the end of the day, they want a soft life, and to sit back and let the husbands take control. She wants Chris to lead, and she hopes that the decision he makes is for the betterment of their family. To end the scene, she asks Chris how long that is going to take and wants to ensure that they are on the same path, because she's not going to be busting her ass like that. Chris, how tone deaf do you have to be to not understand that your wife is tired of your stuff? In the final scene, we are back at the Brayden Real Estate Group with Jermisha and Nicole getting ready to have their meeting with Chris. You already know that we go into a confessional with Nicole. So, she ends up saying that Chris finally texted her to say that he was ready for a meeting after ghosting her for an entire week. Jermisha just wants to hear Chris out and says that it is a delicate matter because they are dealing with family. And Chris and Quita show up, with Quita immediately telling them not to look at her like she isn't supposed to be there. And immediately, we go into her confessional, where she states that she's there to make sure that things don't implode surrounding the contract. She and Chris have plans, and she needs for things to go right. Jermisha jokes and asks Chris if he brought Quita as his attorney because he needed representation. Quita says she's there to make sure that they are on the same page concerning the contract. Chris states that he did go over the contract, however, he's not signing that contract, but he has his own contract to present to them. And you know we are getting a cliffhanger because the episode ends here. Hopefully, we will be privy to why both Family Empire Houston and Love and Marriage Huntsville are starting this 3-week hiatus that I seriously doubt has anything to do with the Olympics. Something is going on with Carlos King and the Oprah Winfrey Network, in my opinion, so I am going to keep up to date on any information that I get regarding the shows and the ratings, and during this hiatus, I will keep you informed of any cast updates. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and why not go ahead and support the channel by subscribing so that you never miss an episode of the Aries Girl podcast. I will see you on the next video. Until then, take care.